Welcome, everyone, to Coffee with a Codex. My name is Dot Porter. I am a curator in the Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies in the Kislak Center for Special Collections, Rare Books, and Manuscripts in the University of Pennsylvania Libraries. SIMS, the Schoenberg Institute, is a research and development institute. We look at manuscripts, we digitize them, we do interesting things with them, and we have some great collections. So part of what I do is once a week on Thursdays at noon, I take a book off the shelf, and we just do an informal show and tell. So I see a lot of names that I don't recognize, so if this is your first time, welcome. Feel free to type your questions in the chat as I go. My colleague Amy Hutchins is here, and she can answer questions, and I'll answer questions as I can. Before I open the book, I just have to say something. I don't know how many of the people who are on this call know Will Knoll or have known him or have heard of him. Will Knoll was the founding director of the Schoenberg Institute, and he hired me at Penn. In the field of manuscript studies, and particularly digital manuscript studies, he's huge. He digitized the manuscripts at the Walters Art Museum when he was the curator there, and just did really interesting things there. And he was the director of the Archimedes palimpsest project, which if you've heard of anything, that's what you've heard of, because that was really incredible. Multispectral imaging that uncovered missing texts. And Will was in an accident and died earlier this week, and it is just incredibly hard and so sad, and I'm still even understanding that it happened is still sort of hard. So I still want to have fun with the manuscript, but I had to mention him. If you haven't heard of him, go to YouTube. He did a TED Talk on the Archimedes palimpsest project, which is amazing, and it's just so him. So I encourage all of you to do that, because he was just amazing, and I'm going to miss him. A lot of people are going to miss him, and he was great. He left Penn before I started Coffee with a Codex, but this is exactly the kind of work that he loved. So I'm going to continue in memory of Will maybe today, just a little bit. So I just had to talk about him a minute. But now I want to talk about the manuscript, because this is a great one. This is another one. If you've been here before, you know I often pull out manuscripts that I don't actually know anything about, and this is one of them. But I see some folks who maybe have heraldic interests, I hope, and so if you know more than I do, do not hesitate to let us know what you know. So this, as you can see, heraldic manuscript, 1597, so late 16th century. The binding clearly is more. Yes, I am recording it on a different system. It's not the Zoom being recorded. It's something else, so we're good. Let's see. 16th century, I'm going to find the record here. Here we go. The binding is later. The binding is a 20th century binding, so quite a bit later, but still very nice. It's got some nice marbled paper and marbled end bands. So we open it up. We actually know a fair amount of the provenance, that is, who owned it, because we have book plates. So Henry Clark Stewart, John Alexander Stewart was a professor at Oxford University, so he owned this at one point. Inside, front cover, Henry Clark Stewart is another owner, so the Stewart family had this. Maybe they are mentioned in here. I don't see anything about it. But basically, we go to the first page that has things. So this is sort of interesting. It looks like the paper maybe has even been printed with these lines. So end of the 16th century, we're well into the printing press era, right? So there were lots of printed books by this point. coming around, but this happens to be handwritten. So what this is a book that's full of heraldic, I'm not even sure what to call them, but shields of families, noble families in England from Edward the Confessor on to, I think, Elizabeth the First. So we start with Edward the Confessor here, and it is written in English. All right, I have Thomas, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that. Can I pronounce that? Estichan? Sorry, I won't even attempt that, but Edward, so we have Edward the Confessor. It is in English. The names of all of the nobility who were in England up to Elizabeth 1597. Let me zoom in even a little bit more so we can see that. Norman French is hard. It is hard. I just prefer not to say it. So you can see it is written in English, although in a rather difficult for me script. I'm sure Amy can read it no problem. Okay. Escutcheon is what I've been told. Escutcheon is what these are called. So I learned something. So here's Edward the Confessor, and then here are the noble families, and every page looks like this, although some of them are a little more decorated. There are 3 types of shields that you'll see. You'll see blank ones. Some of them didn't get filled in, so this one is blank. And then some of them have pen drawings, and then others are painted. So when we get further in, we'll see painted. Oh, Amy comments, we've used this manuscript to show students that just because a manuscript is in English, that doesn't automatically mean it's easy to read. And I think that is true. So every one of these, and I should say, I have some documents that I took out of our cataloging archive. The entries have not been fully transcribed, although some of them have been partially transcribed. So at least to get the family name. And I think there's a family name, and then there's a description of the crest or the decoration, and then the shield itself. And I noted, I don't know very much at all about heraldry and how it works exactly, but you're going to see some things repeated. You're going to see a lot of eagles. You're going to see a lot of lions in different poses. So here's sort of a lion upright, and then you've got lions sideways. Maybe that's so they can fit. I don't know. We've got crowns, lots of stuff. I just noticed that this one up in the left-hand corner has what I think is a much later pencil edition. So we might also look for this. I think it was probably originally blank, and then somebody else came through and filled it in. Another thing that you'll notice is that although some of these are colored in, they are not colored in. A lot of times in manuscripts with illustrations, the illustrations will be complete at the front, and then they will get less and less complete as you go on. Clearly, that is not what's happened here. We are, I believe, in the section of, right, we go straight from Edward the Confessor to William the Conqueror. So we are now in William the Conqueror's section. In fact, I know it's William the Conqueror because we have a helpful little heading at the top. So we always know exactly which king, or I should say ruler, is here. So we will go through. We have a question. How does a heraldic manuscript compare with what I've seen termed armorial? Are they the same thing? And I unfortunately am not a good person to answer that. I assume they're the same thing, but if someone else knows, they should say so, because they might not be the same thing. Let's see. So William the Conqueror, there's many, many of them. And of course, it's sort of interesting to think about the organization, because, of course, you would have nobles under William the Conqueror who were still nobles under William Rufus, who was the next king, and then Henry I. And so we might, I haven't taken a very close look at this, but we might have repeats from section to section. There we go. And so here we finish up the section for William the Conqueror, and we now have William Rufus, who was king after William the Conqueror. So we have new headings here and more of these lions upright. And I'm going to point out one of the things that in my, little knowledge of these sort of heraldic shields is you do have things that are repeated, and then other things are added to sort of distinguish them, I guess. And if anyone knows more, please say so. So here we have an upright lion, and then we have these two, and then here we have another upright lion, but there's it looks like a shepherd's crook over top of it. And I think I can, so this one is Randolph, is that right? No, I feel like there's some of them. So this is one that isn't transcribed, so I'm not sure who that is. This is Odo, half-brother to William the Conqueror. So this is actually William the Conqueror's half-brother has his own heraldic shield, and this is William Rufus himself. There's a short from the comments. There's a short and really lovely book which has a very good primer for heraldic terms. The title is Simple Heraldry, Cheerfully Illustrated. I like that. The upright lion is known as rampant. Thank you. Oh, Odo was a bishop. So this is bishop. So the shepherd's crook makes sense because we have Odo the bishop with a shepherd's crook. So we've got some meaning in here. So the section under William Rufus is not that long, but interestingly, this is when we see our first painted ones. And there's some question, I think, about whether the whole thing was expected to be painted at what point. And this is always a question with any kind of sort of illustrated manuscript, is what was the order? So the pen and the pen drawings were done, and then was it painted over that as part of a program, or did somebody come along later? But I don't know. But what I can say is that the painted ones are quite something. So we have more painted ones, although not all of them. So we have another one with just some stripes up here. We have some birds. We have fish. Let's see. Amy says, these are families raised to the nobility, arranged chronologically under whichever king who established them. Yes, thank you for clarifying that. So I'll say the order, the chronology of establishment is kind of important, and you can sort of almost see how long the kings and the rulers ruled for. So William the Conqueror has a lot. William the Conqueror goes through folio 10. He's got 20 pages, or I guess 19, because this is a front of folio 10. And then William Rufus didn't serve for so long, and so he only has a few pages here. Because he didn't rule so long, he didn't have time to set up as many. But again, I do think it's interesting that most of the ones under William Rufus have been painted. And why, I don't know. And then we move on to Henry I. And he also doesn't have a huge number, and they're not painted, but we can see somebody sort of got started with them. And these were all, remember, this was all done right at the same, that is, the manuscript was made right at the same time. So whoever the scribe would have been copying these, I think, from other sources. But he was sort of putting it together here. So then we have Stephen the First and Henry. So here's Stephen, and then Henry the Second is going to be after Stephen. So here's Stephen. Again, these are all, well, the first couple of pages are not painted, and then these are painted. And I think it looks like there is ink or some kind of drawing. Again, I don't know if you can see it, but there's definitely something happening here under the paint. So in the record, it said that sometimes, even after it was painted, someone would come along with a pen and go back over the paint. So I'm sort of trying to see if that happens. Here's one that isn't even completely filled in. So it's sort of mostly, you can tell the background is red, but for whatever reason they didn't fill it in all the way. And the red looks different from the other red. This red is darker, and I think the paint is thicker. And so this is more like watercolor. So that could mean that multiple people did that. This is sort of interesting because we've got some families have a lot more description going on here. These are not so much. And then these are very big. In fact, I wonder if these are related, because it looks like it's all, oh no, maybe not. I think maybe there's two sections of text here. It's just the one at the top is there's so much more. So more important families. I don't know. There's a smiling one. And then we have Henry the Second and more paint. This is sort of interesting. We have lions with a stripe through the middle, and it hasn't been painted through. We have bells, which are interesting. There's a manuscript I've seen at the University of Glasgow, which has many, many bells in the decoration. And it was because of the family name. And now I'm curious, let's see if this is the same. So this is Henry. Henry the Second. Richard, no, wait. I was planning to make use of this. This is the document that we have that sort of transcribes some of them, but they're not numbered, and they don't have the folio number on them. So, of limited use. However, I think this is something that we could share if people were interested in seeing that. Let's see. Looks like the writing contains the blazons, which tells how it should be painted. Yes, I think that is the case. So it may actually be. This is an interesting question. So if thinking about I'm always thinking about how the manuscript was made, right? So did somebody come through and write the description, and was the person who was making the shields going by what's written in the text, or were they copying? I kind of assume they're copying, but I don't know, because I think there are blank ones where the description is provided. So these are sort of, I love these, like mallets. It's a little violent. I love it. I'm not sure what this is up here. You see that? I feel like it looks like musical notes, but I don't think it's actually musical notes. But I love all the lions. I think they're great. And there's something nice about the simplicity of that. Amy says maybe an A. It could be an A. I don't know. All right, we're on to Richard. Richard the First. And more of the, well, no, I said more and more painted, and then you immediately turn the page, and you are left with just pen and ink, and then more paint. And let's see. And all of this, by the way, if you go to the record, there's a link to the digital copy. So if you want to look at any of this in more detail, you can go there and see more of that. I feel like this would make a really great online project with transcription and description of these. So if you're a student or just interested and that's something that you might like to do, we should talk. Joyce asks, can you send us the text? It's not a complete text. I could scan it, I think. Amy, would there be a problem with me scanning the transcription? And I don't know if we even know who did it. We should check. So we might be able to. We might be able to share. Although I do want to stress it's not a complete transcription of all of these. It's usually the first couple of lines just to sort of identify who they are, and not the description of the blazons there. But it would be neat to do. Here is, we've seen that, I'm recognizing this because we saw it before, only this, again, it's a little bit different. So is it generational? Is it that? I also feeling like they're getting a little more complex. Like this one seems pretty complex. We have, instead of just a shield in 4 parts, we have a shield in 4 parts, and then we have little fishies around it, which is pretty neat. There's a lot of different colors too. There's this green bird. Oh, here we are, Edward. This is Edward the First. The manuscript is on paper. It is written on paper, and the watermark has been identified as late 16th century. So the date was written at the front of the manuscript, and but also we know that the paper came from the same time. So we're really sure. We're not always sure about dates of manuscripts, but this one we're pretty sure about. I'm finding this interesting because we have the 3. So we have the 3 lions here. And then we have 3 lions with looks like a portico there. And then 3 more lions here. And I think, who did I say this was? This is Edward II. I am going to go back to my list and see if I can find the first 3. Edward II. Oh, come on, not Henry. Edward I, Edward II, Edward III. Edward, eldest son of the king, is here. John Plantagenet. So here we have, if you've heard of the Plantagenets, here we go. John Plantagenet and Edmund? John Plantagenet. So this is both Plantagenets, which explains why the shields are similar, I think, because of that. Let's see, I'm just checking the chat. Joyce is wondering about the significance of the fish, the family's location near water. Lynn, and then Lynn says, if the fish are pike and refer to the Lucy family, pike loose, so that could be the connection. And then, is there information of those pigments? Green color in old manuscripts makes me think of arsenic-based paint. And me too. I didn't touch it because I don't know. So the only way, we'd have to do some testing, I think, to see what they might be made of, and we don't really do that at this moment. But it might be an interesting project to see what the paint is made of, because I really, at this point, I don't know. Here's something that's fun, and it sort of goes into what I was saying about these getting a little bit more complex as we move on. We've got sort of a little lion up in the corner of another one, so it's sort of similar to the little fishies around the edge. And I feel like we saw something similar earlier that didn't even have the border. So it's like these elements getting added to each other as time passes. And over here, we've got the bells, which we saw earlier, and then the chevron. I think I've got that right, which again, as I've gone through, we sort of have seen this. Oh, and here, it's making me think of a portico. I don't know if that's actually what that's supposed to be, but the complicated ones coming. Oh, and here's this one again, a little plainer there. So, I just noticed it's almost, we're not even halfway through, folks. So, and we only have 2 minutes left. So I'm not gonna, sorry, I just was paging through. If you want to see the rest of it, go online and do that. Ooh, Erica found the A-like shape. They're water bags. That is really interesting. And I feel like it says something about like what the name of the family. It's like a reference to names. It could also be references to places. It's a really interesting thing. Before we go, I'm going to point out that this is a different hand. This is I think it's a later hand. So we even have somebody coming in and adding text at some point. And the last thing before we go, if you really want to find a specific person, there is an index at the back with arranged alphabetically by name. So if you wanted to see a specific family, you could come in, and because all of the folios are numbered, book historically, this is a sort of this is a manuscript, but it's really starting to act like a printed book, because these are the kinds of things that you see more and more in printed books. You get a cover page or a title page, and you get indices and these kinds of things, but you also do find them in manuscripts. But anyway, there we go. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming, and we'll be back in a week, and we'll have another great manuscript, a humanist one that will be a little bit easier to read. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and have a good week, and I'll see you later. Bye.